good afternoon, wherever you are tuning in from. Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Happy Hour Show with Lindsay Vertner. That's me. And if you have no clue who I am, let me tell you very quickly. My name is Lindsay Vertner, like the show suggests. I'm an award-winning peak potential strategist and transformational speaker. And what I do, what is my purpose, my jam, is to help high-achieving women who struggle with things like perfectionism, overthinking, doubt. Raise your hand if that's you. What I help you to do is learn how to master your mindset and increase your clarity, confidence, connections, and cash flow, because that's what living a first-class life is all about. And tonight on the Happy Hour Show, our special guest is going to share with you all about how to truly live life. Okay, so I'm going to introduce her in just a second. Make sure that if you are tuned in, you have your pen and paper ready, because we're always dropping gems that you can take with you in your life and in your career. And make sure that you comment, love, share this video out. Okay, listen. That is the currency in these internet streets. And if you think it's good, then somebody in your life probably also will think it's good and need the tips that we will talk about on tonight. So comment, love, share. If you're tuned in, let us know where you're watching from or where you're listening from. And if you're watching live, comment all the way live. Woo, 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 woo. And if you're catching the replay later on, then comment replay all day, okay? We still love you, all our replay viewers or listeners, depending on where you're watching or listening from. So anywho, enough about me, enough about the show. Hopefully you've grabbed your drink already so that you can join the chat. And if you haven't, then go ahead and do that right now. And then hurry on back here so that you don't miss any of the juicy goodness that's going to happen tonight. So, without further ado, let me introduce tonight's guest. Her name is Whitney West, and she's a speaker, a coach, a full-time higher ed professional, and she's a doctoral student, and she has a chronic illness that she was diagnosed with in 2014. So she's a chronic illness advocate, and it almost took her life, and it definitely added to her debt that she had. So we're going to talk all about that. Whitney uses her platform to help people appreciate and enjoy their lives when things happen to them. She wants people to know that happiness is possible, even if it takes work. Whitney has enjoyed helping women with chronic illnesses take back control of their lives, and she assists those who need help with their budgeting and getting their debt back on the right financial track. So without further ado, let's give a nice warm welcome for the Whitney West.
Hey, thanks for having me.
How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on here.
Absolutely. Welcome to the Happy Hour Show. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are glad to have you. And I know I just gave a quick snippet of your resume and all the amazing things that you do, but I want you to share with the Happy Hour viewers and listeners, like, who is Whitney really? Like, give us the good tea for us to sip on.
I know, who is this girl? Well, I'm Whitney, and I am originally from Arkansas. I know a lot of people say they don't know many people from Arkansas, but I'm from Arkansas, born and raised. I have two younger sisters. I grew up with my sisters, my mom, my grandmother, and my great-grandmother, who actually lived until I was a senior in high school. So all the generations, all the women, all the amazing things. And actually, I always say that I'm Arkansas born and raised, New Jersey trained, and DC refined, because I went away to high school. I went to boarding school in New Jersey. Fun fact, great time, co-ed. People always ask that question. And no, I was not bad, okay? Actually got a full ride scholarship, was recruited out. And then I went to college in DC, got my bachelor's and master's, and just love the area. I think it sucks you in. DC like keeps you, okay? And so I stayed there forever till I finally decided, it's time to get a little bit closer home. Like you mentioned, the whole debt thing is cheaper to live down south, so I'm currently in Louisiana. So I made my way on back down to the south. But yeah, I've been kind of all over the place. Like you said, in education, I've been around. My mother and my grandmother were both teachers, so that's kind of my life. I'm just like that crazy person who's been on the internet, who's been on the from the south, East Coast, all the things mixed in one.
Listen, you have been a little bit of all over. So
Yeah,
you said you went to boarding school.
I
I'm trying
did.
to think if I even know anyone that ever went to boarding school. What was that like?
It was amazing, which is crazy. People would think it's like, oh, like I tell people, like, seriously, Harry Potter is very similar to Harry Potter. Like, we lived in houses, like we had a house system. Like my house for my sophomore and junior year was Stanley. We had green colors. I still got hoodies. We rock our Stanley gear, and then you go to your dorms in your final year. They're fine, but they're not like the dorms you're in for your sophomore and junior year. Like those are the ones people talk about. And you have house competitions. Like we had sports competitions against each other, just like they played Quidditch. Like it was either ultimate frisbee, flag football, volleyball. Like, and the boys in theirs, they had like a whole like football situation, and it was serious business. Like it was good. It was fun. It was a different experience. I wouldn't trade it for the world. Met like amazing people. Met super rich people. Like coming from Arkansas, it's like I didn't know like that level of wealth really existed. Like definitely went to college with like some of the DuPonts, like DuPont siding, like those people, Bonds, like the a coffee maker. Like people have a lot of money, and I'm like, wow, this is interesting. Nice to know this is possible.
Yes, yes. Now, did you go to a predominantly white school, or were there a lot of black people there? Was it predominantly black, or what was the racial dynamic of it?
It was predominantly white.
Mm-hmm.
There was sprinkling of us, but at that time, it's actually gotten a lot more diverse since we've left. Which is like sometimes we who were there before is like kind of a catch-22 because when we were there, it was not that many of us, but we were all we had. So when we came together, like our student organization was the largest one on campus because no matter what, we were gonna stick together. And even if you had an argument in your house, you're gonna be at this table at dinner. And so we stuck together, we stuck it out, and we made our impact, in that way, like by being a force of in that manner. But as things get more diverse and bring people can like divide within, and that's kind of been what's happening. But they have made great efforts to ramp up the diversity there.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice. So you mentioned that you have siblings. Did they also go to boarding school, or was it just you?
it was just me. They didn't go. They didn't go. I think one of my sisters kind of thought about it, but they stayed home. My mom probably wasn't gonna let a whole nother child run away to the East Coast because it's like technically it's like I've been away from home since I was 15. It was like gone, just away. So I was away for a very long time. So it was kind of rough, letting your oldest child just kind of like go across the country without you. So I don't know if she would have been that willing.
Yeah. So I kind of want to shift gears here just a little bit and talk about 2014. What was happening right before? Like before you share what happened in 2014, what was happening right before that led into 2014? I know all the listeners are like, wait, 2014, what's 2014?
Like what happened?
Stay tuned.
So in 2013, I was, in my 20s, coming into, trying to figure out life. You know how we are when we get to our mid to late 20s. It's like, okay, it's time to figure some things out. So I was like, I have been living on the East Coast, going to expensive colleges. Like, let me get my debt together. Let me get my life together, start losing weight. I was in the gym. I was working out. I was getting my finances together. I was moving up in my career, like doing all the things I felt like I was supposed to do. And I was just like going about my regular activities, and then it was just like I started feeling something different, and it was like, something's not right here. And then it got to the point where I was living like on a second floor apartment. Big girl, I was already like, I don't want to walk up these stairs all the time, but it's fine. At that point, I was used to it. And so I one day was walking up and I was like completely out of breath. And it was like, I've been doing this every day for like the last year. I work out. Like, why am I out of breath? And so I kind of like started to take notice of it. And then it kind of like started deteriorating really quickly. So I was going to like urgent care to try to see what was going on. And they were just kind of like, we don't really know, because I was coughing up and I was coughing up blood occasionally. And they were just like, oh, it seems like you probably just coughed really hard. And eventually one of the nurses there, she was a Black lady, she was like, everything does look right, but like, just because of like the severity of that, I think you need to go to a pulmonologist. And so I tried to go to a pulmonologist, saw him, and then I got kind of like, oh, your lung function is fine. You're just overweight. And I was like, overweight? Like, I feel you, but I also just lost almost 100 pounds. So how is my breathing getting worse, good sir? Tell me that. Tell me that. Let me know. And he was like, oh, okay, well, of course, then he ordered tests, but then his follow-up game is trash. And he did not reach out. They wouldn't schedule appointments. And I was just unbeknownst to me, like on the verge of like about to have a major crisis at the beginning of 2014.
Oh my goodness. Listen, before you get into that part, if you are just tuning in, you are watching the Happy Hour Show with Lindsay Vertner and our very beautiful guest, the Whitney West. And I hope you are ready for what's she's about to spill. Okay, so make sure you comment, love, share this video out, and hopefully you already had your drink, and join the chat, because this is a conversation between us and you at home that is listening or watching this show right now. So grab your drink, join the chat, let us know in the comments, post your questions down below. Make sure that you are signed up for happy hour updates at bit.ly/happy updates. And let's get back into this story time, right? Now, before you share the next part, I really want to point out for the listeners about the importance of understanding your body and having that self-awareness, because sometimes we want to give in to authority, air quotes figures, right? Authority figures, because they have the title or they have the degree or they have something that we don't have. And so we perceive them as the authority and as their word is the end all be all. And unfortunately, there's been a lot of people in the world that have been misdiagnosed, or they're just going based on what somebody else said and not really listening to their own body. And so the fact that you were like, excuse me, it ain't my weight. I know something is happening. Like, kudos to you for advocating for yourself, because I know that can be intimidating in that type of situation, to be like, wait a minute, here's this person that went to medical school and they're telling me this, but I don't feel like that's right. So what was that moment like for you when you were like, you need to go back to your textbooks?
Yeah, it was just kind of like, okay, it's like you're taking the easy like route out. And I found that happens a lot of times, even after I got my diagnosis and everything. It's like, oh, you're just overweight. It's like, did you even look at anything else? Like, why are you just automatically trying to go for the easy thing and not paying any attention? Did you ask my history? Did you look at other things? Because for the most part, if you had looked at any kind of history you might have gotten, you could see the weight has gone down. Like, and it's like, to me, it's just like a cop out, the easy thing to say. Like, I've had doctors say the same thing. I'm like, do you not even see the oxygen? You want to ask about that first or something? Like, could it be something else? Could I be overweight because of whatever else is going on? You got to ask some more questions. I got to be quicker than that. And so in that moment, it was just like, okay, you're being ridiculous. Okay, interesting that my lung function is fine, but like, that lets me know, like, you should be curious now. Like, if my lung function is fine and I'm telling you what I'm feeling, this hasn't been happening. I already told you. So it's like I had to like say something.
Yeah. Make sure y'all are listening to your body, okay? And even if you're not sick, your body will tell you things like when you need to slow down, when you've been working too hard, when you need to get some rest, all of those things.
Absolutely.
So go ahead and spill the beans. Like, what happened next? What happened next?
Whew, y'all, 2014 was a crazy year from the beginning to the end. I could probably write a book on just everything that happened. So we get to February. I was supposed to be hanging out with my girls. I had just bought tickets to go see Justin Timberlake. It was like living my best life, okay? And you know, I was working like a part-time job. I had come from that job and was going to pick up one of my homegirls because of course in the effort of getting your life together, like we were supposed to be organizing in my apartment and doing some other things. And I felt horrible. And I was like, I don't really know what's going on. Like, what is going on? But I still picked up my homegirl. She was like, you know, just chill, you know, you can relax. I know how to fold things. Like we'll get stuff together. And so she was getting stuff together and I was just feeling worse and worse. And then suddenly I felt better. And I was like, oh, okay, well, you know, it must have been just something I ate. Because I had a blueberry muffin that morning before I went off to go to my part-time job. And mind you, I didn't even have blueberry anything again until like last year. That's how traumatized I was from everything I went through, y'all. So come to find out, I went to dinner with them and then got sick again. And I don't even know how I got myself home because my body was just so tired and like exhausted that as soon as I would get relief, it felt like I wanted to fall asleep, but I was driving. And so I was like having those moments of just trying to get home. And I called my line sister, like, I think I need to go to the ER. And so she'd come over that next morning and took me to the ER. And it turned out I needed my gallbladder out, like immediately. I ended up being in the hospital a couple of days before they were able to schedule the surgery. Missed the Justin Timberlake concert. Couldn't sell my tickets. How trash. And
priorities, right?
Priorities. Like, girl, what are you thinking? This is me every time I get sick, I have my priorities are all jacked up. As I remember getting out of surgery, everything went fine. Another one of my line sisters was there and like left me messages like that everything was good. I got up to go to the bathroom, everything was fine. Got up one more time to go to the bathroom and I like collapsed. I was cold but sweating, like I was going through. They didn't know what was wrong. And so they took me to go get scans and I had like full blown pneumonia. Throughout my lungs, and then my oxygen levels crashed to a point where I shouldn't have even been cognizant. They were so low. But I was up, functioning, talking, but the doctor was like, with levels this low, you're gonna have to be intubated. And so at that point, I ended up intubated and I was on a ventilator for about 8 days. And during that time I had crashed pretty severely. My was bleeding in my lungs, different things. So they called in pulmonology, so many things that they really couldn't figure out what was going on. And as I started to kind of get better, 8 days later, they kind of woke me up, still not knowing what was going on. My friends had rallied, called all my people they were there with me, like constantly. But funnily enough, of course, when I woke up, like nobody was there. So it was like, wow. But like the only reason I knew like it had been 8 days is because I knew like the day before when I was in the hospital, Scandal was supposed to come on like the next day. And then when I woke up, Scandal was coming on that night, but it was the second episode. And I was like, oh. I know, I miss Scandal, but it's like, it's been 8 days. Like, this is crazy. Like, what has gone on? And then I remember that this guy came by and he was like, what happened to the girl who was in here? Like, is she okay? And I was like, I think I've been in here the whole time. He was like, I came in here and I prayed over you. I thought you weren't gonna make it. Like, I can't believe like you're the same person that like was in here. And it was like I was really very much close to not being here any longer.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So who was the guy that came in and was praying over you? Was
It's
it a
funny, like,
worker or a visitor? Like,
yeah, he actually he works with the chapel at the hospital, but he actually attended the same church that I attended. Funnily enough, and it was just like, oh, he was like, oh my gosh, you're a member at this church. Like when we got to talking, and I was like, yeah, I was like, I'm a member there too. And he was like, yeah, I do this here, and he was just like, I'm just so happy. He was like, I just can't believe that the person that I saw that was so sick is like sitting here talking to me now. And I was just like, this is just amazing because you don't know how bad it is, yourself as you're on a ventilator, but it's like just to hear like other people's accounts of everything. And like from there, the rest of the year was crazy. It kind of even got crazier.
It got crazier than that.
Yeah, I know. It seems like it's like, how could it get crazier? But like from there, I did leave the hospital on oxygen, which was like a whole thing. It was like how to get like acclimated to something different. Because at that point, I didn't have a diagnosis. I didn't really get what the oxygen was for. I never really paid attention to like my oxygen saturation levels. But thinking back, like every time I'd gone to urgent care, they were reading low, but they would always be like, oh, maybe your fingers are cold. But as I, sat there, it would go up because that's like how my condition works. As I'm sitting still, oxygen is regular. When I move about, that's where the issues are. So it's funny that it's kind of was always like clues along that something was going on.
Look, that's a whole nother word right there. There's always clues. We can use that in so many different ways. Clues whenever your body is trying to tell you something. Clues whenever you're trying to find your purpose. But before we get to that piece of it, over here in the comments, Anitra says, look at God. Carol says, praise God. And IR says, wow, God will always put the right folks in our lives. So true. And if you are just tuning in, you are watching the Happy Hour Show with Lindsay Vertner and our lovely guest, the Whitney West. She is a success strategist for women with chronic illnesses, teaching you how to live your life despite what happens, okay? Because she is a living, breathing example of doing just that. She's going to talk to us some more about how she didn't let her chronic illness stop her from the things that she wanted to do. And we're going to talk a little money, okay?
Oh, yeah.
We can help you there because if you ever been to the doctor, those bills can start to rack up. And then if you regularly going to the doctor, then, I don't even want to think about it. But before we get to that part, I think that this is a good time to take a little break, and hopefully everybody has their drinks because we are going to do something that I call
What's in your cup?
Yeah. If you're new to the show, this is the part where we talk about what we're sipping on because what's in your cup is always fun to know. So first, our guest will share what she's sipping on over there, and she's going to give some lovely cup can. I'll share with you what I'm drinking, and whatever you're drinking at home, put it in the comments because we want to know. We always are sharing drink recipes and good drinks that we like. So put what you're sipping on in the comments. And if you don't have a drink, what were you thinking? It's okay. We still love you.
Yes, we do.
Wish you were drinking on, and then go make it for yourself after the show because we don't want you to miss anything good, okay? So, Miss Whitney, what's in your cup?
Well, what's in my cup today is some ginger honey tea with a little lemon. I'm actually just getting over an unfortunate sinus infection. It's like, as we go back outside, it's like, really? This is what we want to be greeted with is a sinus infection. It's like, can I get back to my regular sick? I'm not okay with this extra. Okay.
Regular sick.
Oh, my regular sick.
Give us some cup cam. Put it right up on the camera, all up in the goods. Just say no.
Yeah. This is actually a cup I sell, so get your mug.
I love it because I'm always like, you gonna do that or not? I love it. And I can see you saying that all the time. Over here in my cup, your tea sounds very fancy, and we are on the same fancy page. Now, I know that it looks like I'm having a little party in my cup today. However, I am also drinking tea. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And not just any tea, Popeye's sweet tea. The good stuff.
The good stuff, okay.
Good stuff.
Super sugary.
But I was feeling extra fancy tonight, so I put it in a wine glass.
Yeah. Yeah. Give
so
it a
you
little
put my bougie on.
Yeah. Give it a little zhuzhing up.
So listen, if you're at home and you got to put yourself in that mind state of where you want to be, what you want to be doing. And so, put your water in a wine glass sometimes.
Okay.
Put your milk in a martini glass. Whatever you like. Just do you, boo. Do you.
Make it work for you.
Yes. Carol is drinking Gatorade. Now, that was an unexpected drink, Miss Carol.
It's funny because that was almost my go-to. I was like, oh, it's tea time at night, but I've been on the Gatorade trying to get those electrolytes up. So
listen, that's exactly what I was about to say. Carol, are you trying to increase your electrolytes as well? Because again, I was not expecting anyone to say Gatorade. We always have some interesting drinks popping up in the comments. So thank you for sharing. Miss IR says Tito's and club soda.
Yes.
Party over there with IR.
Absolutely.
Okay. I wonder if anybody's mixed alcohol with Gatorade or not.
I'm
Weird
sure maybe a slush situation.
Like with the glacier ice. Is glacier ice?
Yeah.
I
think so. I think that's Gatorade.
Y'all know what I'm talking about. And Miss Anitra is drinking water and Coke. Now I hope those are in two separate cups because watered down Coke does not sound appetizing. So we're gonna assume that those are two separate cups. She's got water.
Yeah, and I got a little water over here to match you.
See, look, y'all double fisting. So let's get back into this conversation. So you said things got crazier with your illness, and obviously the bills started to rack up. So tell us a little bit more about what happened next, and how did you start to make the turn with this new life that was literally thrown upon you?
Yeah, so after I got out of the hospital, obviously, I had been on a ventilator for a while and in the hospital for weeks. So I couldn't go right back to work. It was hard enough to walk into my apartment. It was difficult. So I had to take some time off of work along with hospital bills. I think my hospital bill that I saw, the one that I looked at, was like $50,000, which, yeah, it's a salary. Okay. For that visit, and it was just like, oh, wow, luckily my insurance kicked in after a certain point. I was almost at my deductible, so I didn't have to pay but like a few $100s out of pocket at that point. But then it was like, okay, now you have to still survive for the next few weeks and see if your leave covers the amount of time you need to be out. And I was at a point where my parents would give me some money, but I was still like $900 short of what I needed to make. So I was just like, it was like a wake up call for me to never be in that spot again. Luckily, I had a very generous cousin who played for the NFL at that time, and he just called me and was just like, "What is the number that you need?" And I was like, "I'm not asking you." He said, "What is the number?" And him and his wife sent a check, and it covered me. And I was just like, I'm never gonna be there again.
Can we pause for a moment? Can we pause? Because Listen, you got two kind of folks in your life. You got the ones that is always asking for stuff, and then you got the ones that don't ever want to ask for stuff. And kudos for you for not wanting to like hang on the coattails of your cousin, but at the same time, not accepting help when help is offered. That's a whole nother word right there. Because listen, for all of you at home, how many of you know that you need some help in one way or another? Maybe it's around the house, maybe it's with your work responsibilities, maybe it's with running your business. I don't know. You know, it's your life. But how many of you are doing all the things for all the people and you know you could use some help? However, when people offer the help, you decline it.
You say no, okay? It's like, yeah, I was like, because I was like, I think it just caught me so off guard with that, especially because I'm like, you know, just thinking people are like, will chip in, but like to be like, what is the amount? Like, I got you. But that was a blessing that kind of let me get through the hump of being able to get back to work, go back to work and like get to a place. But it was like, I was also going to doctor's appointments because they wanted to like test different things because I didn't have a diagnosis yet. Mm-hmm. So basically I'm on the oxygen, but because I don't have a diagnosis, I'm pretty much untreated. They thought about giving me one medicine, called me like 2 days later and was like, do not take it. Like, it's going to make things worse. Just because, yeah, it was just like, nope, we saw another test. It's going to make things worse. So I was back and forth to the hospital, back and forth, getting tests, taking time off work. My body is tired because I've been through a traumatic experience and like they're steady testing me all the time. Mm-hmm. And I get to a point where in September, my high school is having an event for, I don't even remember what it was for, but I think it was like the anniversary of like black students being at the school. So we went, I saw some friends that I hadn't seen in a while, one who had been diagnosed with a chronic illness herself. So we had been talking, but we had got to spend some time together there. And after I got back, I was just not feeling well. But in the meantime, I had decided, okay, it's time for me to really advocate for myself. And I did a GoFundMe because I needed to move. Like I was on that top floor with the oxygen, lugging it up and down the stairs, making me tired. And I was just like, I may have to pay a break fee. I was going to move in the same complex, but they had like a transfer fee and other stuff. And obviously I was just at a point of like paying for these doctor's visits, trying to make the gap. And so I asked for help and also like was advocating with myself with my rental office. Like, you know, I've been here this long. I'm always good. Like, can we like make a deal with the, you know, transfer? And they were able to like help me out a lot. So I was able to move into a situation that was better for the future that I didn't even know what was coming. But I knew at that moment, like going up those stairs every day, because it was actually down a hill and then up the stairs to the second floor. So it was just a lot when I was lugging oxygen. So I got to that point after the event at my high school, and it was getting close to my moving day, and I wasn't feeling well again. And I was talking to the pulmonologist, and he was like, if you don't feel well, or if you start coughing up blood again, call my cell phone. Like he gave me his number. He was like, call my cell phone. And so the next day it happened. I called him. He was like, I'm calling the hospital. I'll meet you there. Come. And of course, me, like I said, my priorities, we all jacked up when this happens. I'm like, I'm moving in 2 weeks. Like, what do you mean? Like, I need to go home and pack. Like, what are you doing? He's like, Whitney, like, you're going to be admitted. Like, you're clearly like off the chain. But I realized I skipped something. Rewind back a little bit. Before I went to my high school, I got a call. Well, I was actually on the phone with my grandmother when she just kind of, in like a hysteric moment, was like, called out my mother's name. And I was like, what's going on? She was like, she just fainted. And was like, what happened? So she's running to her. And so my mom had a major stroke. in that August, where it has, she's still alive, thankfully, thank God. But it, impacted her speech and some different things. But I had to get home to Arkansas in the middle of this. So it's probably all the stress of all the travel, not being diagnosed, like all of that came to a head for me. But it was like I was dealing with my illness, dealing with my mom's illness, not knowing if she was going to make it at first and what was going on. So it was like just craziness, really. And then here I am. My mom is just getting out the hospital, about to be put back in the hospital. And they decide to do tests, despite me yelling about needing to go pack. They do tests. I need to be intubated for the test, and I crashed during that time. So they decided to keep me on the ventilator and transfer me to University of Maryland, where I was getting my other tests and stuff done, where my other pulmonology and cardiology team were. So during that time, while they were waiting to get me transferred, I coughed up the ventilator, which should exactly. I told you it gets crazier, which should essentially be impossible. But I just coughed it up and was sitting up there looking alert, like everybody else, like, why y'all, what's going on? What's happening? And they were just like, what's going on? Like, she seems fine. Like, turn up her oxygen. I was like, I'm good. Like, what is going on? It was like, well, you coughed up the ventilator. I was like, oh, okay. How cool. So, I was perfectly fine.
Right?
Yeah, cool. Like, I was perfectly fine. Did not damage my throat, anything. And then I was transferred to University of Maryland, where I met with my cardiologist. She had been out of town asking all the questions because I've been getting testing with her and the pulmonology team there. And she was like, I came back and I have like 3 different possibilities. It's either this one thing, I can't even remember what it is. It's cancer, or maybe this thing called fibrosing mediastinitis. And I was like, okay, I think the first thing, I can't remember what it was, but I knew I'd heard about it. Of course, we know what cancer is. And I said, what is that last thing, the fibrosing mediastinitis? And she was like, you don't want to know. It would be better if it was cancer, because at least we know how to treat that one.
Oh.
She was like, that last one, there's no research about. There's nothing.
I feel like this is foreboding, and like you're going to say, well, it was the last one.
And it was the last one. After a few weeks, like a couple weeks or so in the hospital, my pulmonologist, they were still trying to figure it out. They wanted to do a biopsy to either rule out cancer or rule in the fibrosing mediastinitis. And I was too unsteady and I didn't feel comfortable. My pulmonologist came to me. He was like, how are you feeling? I was like, I don't feel comfortable trying to do the biopsy again. And he was like, I'm happy that you shared that, because I don't either. He was like, I think you've been a little bit too unstable. He was like, but the thing is, I actually called a friend in St. Louis, was talking to him about your symptoms. And he said to me immediately, oh, I know exactly what that is. It's fibrosing mediastinitis. That quickly.
God.
Yeah. So because apparently it is not a common illness at all. A few hundred people have it in the States, maybe under 1,000 in the entire world.
Wow.
And it's more prevalent in the United States, where it is seen occasionally in the Ohio River valleys and the Mississippi River valleys, which is St. Louis, near the Mississippi, as I grew up in the Mississippi Delta. So it all made sense to him, because it's something that is more prevalent in his area, and he was able to just kind of put the pieces together. The coughing up blood was the key for him to know what it was.
Man. Listen, if you're just tuning in, you're watching the Happy Hour Show with Lindsay Vertner. That's me, and our lovely guest, the Whitney West. She is a success strategist for women with chronic illnesses, teaching them how to live their lives with joy and happiness, and knowing that your chronic illness is not a death sentence, okay? So make sure you reach out to her, thewhitneywest.com. And Listen, you do not have to have a chronic illness to reach out to
No.
her. Okay? Whitney is school peoples, all right? And she has lots of gems to give if you just want to live a great life. Follow her on IG, thewhitneywest.com, THEWHITNEYWEST, okay? For all my audio listeners. Now, there are so many things that I want to touch on in what you were just saying, because I know a lot of viewers and listeners out there, you know, it's easy for us to let the things that happen to us become us. And it's important that we realize that we are who we are, and these are things that happened, but they do not define us. And I love that about you, how you didn't let this illness, this diagnosis define who you were, and you weren't going to let it stop you from living your life, which unfortunately so many people do that. So many people allow different obstacles that come along, whether it's an illness or whether it's finances or, you know, whatever it is in your life, you let it stop you and define you, define who you are, who you think you are, and stop you from being who you truly want to be. And so in saying that, how did you come to terms with like, okay, this is my life, but I'm not going to let it control me the way I'm sure many people do, because I know I've seen it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's I think I went through, I don't want anybody to think I didn't go through those typical phases. Like you're like, why me? Like, how could this happen to me? Like, what is going on? And I went through the typical stages of mourning, like the life that I thought that I was going to have, or the things that I thought I couldn't do initially. And I was depressed and just sad and just trying to figure things out and trying to figure out what my life would look like. But as I had mentioned, I had that friend who had the chronic illness, who went to the same high school as me. And we had been talking, and she had given me some encouragement. And I noticed that she was still like doing the stuff that she loved to do. She was traveling. She was about to go back to school, like doing all these amazing things. And I was just very inspired by that. And she went on a trip to, I believe it was Honduras. She went on a trip, and that next January in 2015, and unfortunately got into a car accident there, and she passed away. And it was very like, my friend is gone. Like we were just connecting on so much with our chronic illnesses, but it was like a signal to me that, you know, nobody can say that like after she got diagnosed with, you know, such a crippling illness that she let it control her life. Like when she died, she was doing one of the things that she loved to do the most, which was traveling. And so for me, it was like, I didn't want my moment of illness to be, oh, her life was never the same after that. It was just like, I wanted to be like, wow, this is what she was able to do after that. This is her legacy. This is what she's able to do. And so that was my mission, to live out life how I wanted it to be, despite what was happening. Because as you see, like life can happen any type of way. You can go any type of way. So let me just live out and actually do the things and try to do the things that I want to do.
Yes, you can live your life in fear, because when you live in fear, like you fail to live. And that is something that I live by. We can't be worried about the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. When you're worrying about something, you're making yourself anxious and overwhelmed about something that hasn't even occurred and likely won't occur, or you are creating the situation for yourself, because our thoughts and words are very powerful, and they create life or death depending on what you're speaking. So if you're speaking positive things, then you're creating that life. If you're speaking negative things, you're creating that death in the situation. Not to be confused with like toxic positivity or anything.
Oh, right.
But I noticed how you said, you know, she had this chronic illness, but then that's not even what killed her. It was the car wreck that she got away from. And so we can't be consumed with the things that we're fearful of. We have to be willing to be bold. Now, that doesn't mean make stupid decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just go crazy, but we have to kick fear in the ass, for lack of better words, right now, and control how fear shows up. Because here's the thing, fear never goes away. Like, fear is a natural emotion that all of us have, because our brain's number one goal is to keep us alive. And how does it do that? It makes us fearful of things that may put us in danger. If it even a little bit seems like it's going to harm us in some way, whether that's physical harm or emotional harm, our brain is like, stop, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And a lot of people have a fear of rejection, a fear of failure, a fear of the unknown, a fear of whatever is going on in their lives that's going on. And so we allow that fear to paralyze us where we are. And fear never goes away. And so if you're constantly allowing fear to control your actions and behaviors, then you're constantly living a whole
You're going to be bound by them.
Right. A null life.
Yeah. Oh, no. You ain't going to be doing nothing. And then you're going to have that point of regret. And I think especially as women, it's like a lot of times we end up living our lives for other people and through a definition of other people. If you ask women a lot of times, which I do for my coaching clients or whoever, it's like, who are you? And, you know, you hear people say, you know, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a teacher. But who are you outside of what you do for everybody else? So what are the things you want to do? Like, what makes you you? What are the things that fulfill you? And it doesn't matter to me what they are. Like, people ask me now, what do you do in your free time? I nap. Like, and I don't care what you think about it, because that's what I do. That's what I have the time to do. And that's what I like. Like, people, like, you get so caught up in what people are going to think about you, about what you like and what you want to do. And all of that doesn't matter. It's like, it's not going to be fulfilling to you to live your life based on how you think somebody else is going to think about it. Do the things that you want to do because they are what you want to do, either in that moment or later on, because you always have that power to change, to switch up your life, to live the illest life that you can possibly live.
Yes, yes, yes. You got to turn those bubble guts of fear and you got to say, no, that's not fear. Those are excitement butterflies.
Exactly. Switch it. It's all from the same place. Fear and excitement live in that same area in your body. You can't be courageous without the fear, because otherwise you ain't had nothing to get over with.
So there y'all go. Turn your fear into excitement. You tell your fear what it is. And you're going to say, you know what? I may be a little nervous, but I'm excited. And that's what this feeling, these bubble guts in my belly.
Exactly. Really you alive if you can feel it. Okay?
Yes, yes, yes. If you're just tuning in, you're watching the Happy Hour show, and better late than never, but I will need you to go back and watch the replay, because we're almost to the top of the hour. I know, it is never long enough, but we are here every single Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, so make sure you sign up for updates on bit.ly/happy updates. And I know you're thinking I'm crazy right now. You're thinking, is that really tea or is it wine? Because you said Tuesday and today is Thursday. Yes, sometimes we have special airings on Thursday evenings. So if you want to stay updated, again, make sure you sign up for updates at bit.ly/happy updates. And follow us on social media. I'm always posting who's up next, okay? So stay connected, stay connected. I know we have some questions coming in over here. One of them was, how were you when all this started to take place, if I may ask? And listen, Miss Nitra, I'm going to tell you, you absolutely can ask. However, she already talked about what she was doing and what she was planning to do before shit hit the fan, okay? So I'm going to direct you to go back and watch the replay for the part that you missed. And then don't forget to still comment, love, and share this video. All right.
Yes.
So you shared so much and you decided, I'm not going to let this define me. I'm going to live my life just like my friend did. Very quickly, I definitely want you to share a few tips about how you started to get the financial piece of it back on track, because now you're coming to terms with the life that you're living and how you're not going to let it control you. So now you're here, but you have this other piece where it was like, oh, now I got all this debt because of it. So how did you begin to tackle that? And what are some quick tips that you can share with the viewers on how they can tackle their debt?
Yeah, so I knew that, okay, I'm going to have all kind of expenses that are going to be coming up. I'll never know. So I really just need to like figure everything out. So I really just, the first thing I did, and my tip is to everybody, is like, be honest with yourself. Look at everything. People think of budgeting and getting out of debt as something restrictive, but if you think about it like that, or you don't want to look at it, you're never going to know. So you have to be honest and look at everything and do it truthfully, because a lot of people fail because they like to think they're at a 4 and they're trying to work their way up to a 10. But it's like, if you're really at a 2 and you're working like you're at a 4, there's that gap there and you're never going to be able to jump it. Okay. But you can easily work from a 2 to a 4 if you're honest about where you are. So it's being honest, because if you know that you like to go shopping and you buy clothes every month and you spend $500 a month, it's not saying like, I'm not going to buy any clothes, because that's unrealistic for your lifestyle. You might want to say, I might try to go down to 300, but look at that whole $200 that can make a whole difference in the long run. It may take you a while, but if you can pull out that 200, you can start making a difference in your overall financial livelihood. So just being honest with yourself. And that's what I did, is I tried to say, okay, I'm not making enough money. I'm going to need to get a new job. And so I thought about getting a new job. The pay was actually kind of about the same, but it was closer to home. And when I was in Maryland, I didn't have to drive as much, so it was better on my body. And it turns out, because I was working for a state agency, I ended up bringing in more money from going from private to state. And so I was able to start paying down more of my debt, paying down credit cards, and actually begin to really save. Because again, I didn't want to ever be in that place again where if I got sick and I ran out of sick leave, where I didn't have the money to close the gap. So I got really intentional about being able to save money. And so I say, start small with whatever you can do. If it's $200, if it's $50, if it's $100, if it's $5, just start putting something away and not touching it, because everybody knows rainy days come. Like for me now, as like more mature with it, I still have debt that I'm paying off slowly, because I know I have to balance everything. Because I know, like this last week when I had a sinus infection, this could have been a flare up from my illness, but I know when that happens, I need to do certain things. I need to maybe call DoorDash to go to CVS and get medication. I'm not going to be able to cook, so I need to order out, and those things cost money. But as somebody who is chronically ill, I can't call these emergencies because I know I'm going to flare every so often. So this is money I actually save and put aside so that it doesn't wreck my financial livelihood for that month that it happens in. So I'm able to plan, and then I'm able to budget for things that help my life. Like I have people who clean my house. I send out my laundry. I do meal prep, because these take a lot of the stress out of my life when I'm doing all the things like working, running a business, being a doctoral student, the things that I want to do. Is like, I don't want to run myself ragged. So I'm going to make sure I save and invest the money in the areas that make my life most comfortable and make me able to do the things while also attacking my financial goals.
Listen, I have to hop on this. We probably gonna go a little over the hour, but I have to hop on this because you just said you didn't run yourself ragged. You know, being in school, having a job, then you have your chronic illness and you have your business. You have all these things and you needed help with those things. And so I want to point out to all the viewers and listeners that even if you don't have a chronic illness, oftentimes, it is good to seek help for the things that you do on a regular basis. Maybe that's finding someone to cook for you, or having a housekeeper, or having somebody run your errands for you. And I don't mean like you asking your neighbor every other day to run your neighbor errands. Like, no, actually pulling up the app and paying someone to run your errands because that's their job. And wait a minute, before you're like, Lindsay, I don't got the money for that. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. What is your body telling you? What is your mental state telling you? What is your emotional state telling you?
Okay.
Because that's going to cost you more in the long run than paying $10 an hour right now for somebody to come clean your house or something like that. Oftentimes, whenever we're not accustomed to things like that, we in our brain make it more expensive than it really is.
Exactly.
I remember the very first time I hired a housekeeper, once I was like looking, like, of course there were some higher ones, but overall I was like, oh, this isn't as expensive as I thought it was going to be.
As you thought it was, exactly.
And you know, that very first time that I was able to do something, like I was working something that brought in income, because when I clean my house, that don't make me not one damn
not
cent.
A dime. Okay.
So I was working, and it felt so good to, in my peripheral, watch somebody else vacuum my floors and clean my toilets. I didn't have to do it. Not only did it give me a ease of mind, a peace of mind, but it also allowed me to work on things that I wanted to work on, and a peace of mind, so many different things. And so I want to encourage everyone to hire the help that you need in your life.
And that you need, like, that's an important point of it, because I talk to people and they're like, oh, well, you know, my house doesn't really get that dirty to every month, so maybe I can do it every month. It's like, you're going to be struggling at that month point. Like, people like to skirt around, or like, oh, maybe I can get it every 2 weeks, because you think, oh, that's my maintenance level. It's like, I only need it cleaned every month. But like, keep it right above, so that it's always maintained, so that you're not falling out. Because what's going to happen at week 3, you're going to be hustling and bustling, trying to clean up and do XYZ and worrying yourself to death. And you're going to be counterproductive with what you're doing. It's like, know your maintenance level and make sure that you're doing what it takes to keep it there, and not like skirting yourself and working below it.
Yes. Especially if you are a mom out there. I know firsthand experience that we often do all the things for all the people. If you're a woman in general, we do all the things for all the people. Men too, but women, we got it a little worse than the guys. We're always doing everything for everybody else and running ourselves ragged, like Whitney just said. And so hire that help. This is me giving you permission, since you're not giving yourself permission, but hire that help that you need. Okay, go back.
And it's not lazy. Leisure is not lazy. That's my thing lately. Okay.
And it is a form of self-care. So I have 2 quick questions that I want to ask you as we wrap it up here on the Happy Hour Show. One, I have to know, because this is very important. How do you practice self-care with being a student, with having a business, with having a job, with having a chronic illness? How do you practice self-care so that it doesn't take an additional toll on your body?
And anytime anybody asks me this question, I think everybody's always thinking like, oh, I go get massages, which I do, and do all other kind of things. But my like biggest form of self-care is being like radically honest with myself about the things that I need and where my priorities are, and what I can do and what I cannot do, and making sure that when I am in that moment of honesty, that I cancel things, or that I call out of work sick if I'm not feeling well, that I'm making sure that I am my top priority, so that I know that I can be the best student, the best worker, the best me, the best everything, because I am taking care of myself and I'm being honest about what I can do. So if that means that, okay, I can't do this because I have a paper coming up, I'd say that I can't do this. Or even if it's something I wanted to do, or if it's like, you're going to have to order food. Like, you don't want to spend that extra $25, but guess what? You have X, Y, and Z to do. So you're going to have to just eat it up, girl. Like, it's like sometimes we want to do the things like, I'm going to go cook. It's like, no, you're not. You don't got time. You don't got energy. And you ain't And no, ma'am. And you don't want nothing in that kitchen anyway. So treat yourself. It's just having those conversations. I remember sometime earlier this year, I wasn't feeling that great and I had a speaking engagement. And it was just like, if you get up here and try to talk, you're gonna make yourself and your lungs like way worse. So just be completely honest, email them, let them know what's going on. And of course I went into a full flare like that weekend. I knew it was coming. But if I hadn't have said anything and tried to get up there, I could have like really like messed myself up. So it's like, be honest and do the things that it takes, even if they're hard, to take the best care of yourself.
I love that. Be radically honest with yourselves in all the ways, financially, emotionally, physically, with whatever you got going on in your life, in your relationship.
Okay.
Listen, we don't got another hour, okay?
We don't, okay.
Be radically honest with yourself. I love it. I love it. And so one other question that I have to ask all my guests this, because I am all about creating your first class life, which you do so well. And what that means is that means you don't live in fear. You don't live up to the expectations of who other people think you should be. You shed away all those masks that we put on every day. You know, those masks of fear, rejection, failure, I'm not good enough. You take those off and instead you show up boldly and authentically you, 100%. Flaws and all, who you are. You are intentional about creating happiness in your life. You are intentional about creating the quality of life that you truly desire. And that's what living a first class life is all about. You know, not walking around living in economy, okay? And so, but we have to be bold and intentional about that and unapologetic. And so my question for you, my lovely Whitney, is how do you intentionally create happiness in your life?
Oh, that is a really good question. I surround myself with people that I know absolutely love me unconditionally. And I talk to them and I really take that time. Even if I'm FaceTiming my best friend at work, like I'm going to talk to my people that are going to bring me joy and allow me to laugh. Like laughter is so important. Even if it's calling my sister and like cracking up a joke about something. And she says, I always cry. Like when I'm laughing, she's like, all you do is laugh and cry. And so I always make sure that if I'm not cracking a joke, I'm calling somebody that's going to say something funny, or calling my niece because she is hysterical and she's always so excited to talk to me. So I like to have those relationships that bring me joy, that I can just laugh and talk and like be my most authentic self with, and not feel judged. And it's just like, I'm a Cancer, so I had just had a birthday in June, and you know they always call us crybabies, and I was like, I don't never cry. And I was like, well, they didn't say what kind of tears they are, but because I'm always laughing, crying all the time. You can always, anytime I'm laughing real hard, the tears are streaming down, baby. And I guess that's where the tears come from, in me being a Cancer. But I love to laugh and have fun and like talk to the people I love. It's always a good time.
Yes, I love it. If you're just tuning in, I'm sorry, but you missed it. Here on the Happy Hour Show, we are at the end of the hour, and that means you have to go back and watch the replay, okay? Comment, love, share this video out. Miss Whitney, tell us, where can people connect with you? What do you have coming up next? Let the people know.
Yeah, so you can find me. I'm primarily on social media on Instagram, but I am The Whitney West everywhere. And my website is also thewhitneywest.com. And what I have coming up soon is in August, I have a talk show premiering on YouTube that is called The Rare Show. It's all about redefining chronic illness, advocacy, relationships, and empowerment. And that is what Rare stands for. And I also will be having more coaching opportunities, one-on-one coaching opportunities that are called my Ill Influence Intensives. My coaching program is Ill Influence, but that'll be coming back later next year. But I'll have some one-on-one and smaller coaching opportunities that you can go to my website and check out. So just make sure you follow me on Instagram and all my other social media so we can stay connected. I want to hear from y'all.
Yes. And for my audio listeners, that's thewhitneywest.com, THE WhitneyWest.com. Same for Instagram. Make sure you connect. Make sure you reach out. And also make sure you sign up for updates at bit.ly/happy updates so you can stay tuned on all things Happy Hour Show. We don't want you missing an episode at all. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for being a phenomenal guest.
Thank you for having me.
Viewers and listeners, for tuning in. I know you could be doing anything in the world right now, but you spent the last hour here with us, and I do not take that lightly. So I appreciate you, and make sure you tune in this Tuesday for our next guest at 9 p.m. Eastern. All right. Again, you can sign up for updates at bit.ly/happy updates. And with that, tonight's show was sponsored by Love and Science Logistics, okay? The premier cargo shipping, covering the Southeast from Florida, all of Georgia, like all those states down there. So thank you to our sponsors for today. And with that said, I will see you later, alligator. Bye.